Juan Fernandez, weeknights, KCAL News. This is KCAL News, Los Angeles.
Snow day. These joyous kids at an elementary school in Porter Ranch got a real recess surprise, but in our mountains, all this snow is making it dangerous to drive. So many roads have been closed.
And more snow where you rarely see it. This is in Santa Clarita. Snow falling on a parking lot off Bouquet Canyon near Valencia Boulevard. This is the second winter treat for some SCV residents, where it snowed over the weekend as well.
And a snowy spectacle for drivers in La Habra this afternoon. It was coming down hard on the local roads for a short time. This is a scene this afternoon at Whittier Boulevard near Beach Boulevard, leaving drivers gripping their steering wheels a little tighter. And check out the winter scene in Laverne, where a backyard got a dusting of snowflakes, and really unusual but spectacular sight for neighbors. As people in many SoCal communities buzzing on this frosty Wednesday.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Juan Fernandez.
And I'm Amy Johnson in for Susie Suh. The Southland has no doubt been beaten up by Mother Nature over the last week, with flooded streets, downed trees, and as you just saw, rare snow falling across the valleys.
This latest round of winter weather has caused problems on our roads, no matter where you live. We have live team coverage on the SoCal winter freeze. Rena Nakano is standing by as snow-covered roads leave residents stranded in the mountains. Our Jasmine Veal is on Valley Snow Patrol.
But first, we want to begin with Olga Ospina with a look at your next weather forecast. Olga, this low-level snow caught a lot of people by surprise.
Yes, and once again, I mean, last week we had that really low-level snow, and once again, we have seen those impacts across a lot of areas that typically do not get snow. Santa Clarita, even just outside our station here in Studio City, snow flurries, and yes, some very unusual weather impacting us once again. Want to show you that satellite radar. Here is our 3-hour loop. So we're seeing some of that rain really dissipate, but still that snow in the lower levels. I want to zoom into some of those problem areas out through the foothills of the San Gabriels. We're continuing to still see some snow flurries out there. And as we head a little bit further east, especially, of course, those mountain areas, if you've been outside and you're driving, you can see those snow-covered mountains. So we're going to talk about totals and how much longer we're expecting to see this wintry weather. It's all in just a few minutes. Back to you guys.
Olga, thank you. Exciting, right? We just can't get enough of it. An elementary school playground in the San Fernando Valley suddenly turns into a winter wonderland. Snow where we rarely get it. People all across the Southland, in fact, are getting a taste of this rare winter weather. KCAL News reporter Jasmine Veal live at that school now in Porter Ranch. Jazz?
Yeah, just above the school, look at this view. I'm on a ridge line above Porter Ranch, and you can see those snow-capped mountains right behind me where it was snowing here, where I'm standing just a few hours ago. What a rare sight. It's sunny now. No snow stuck to the ground, but those kids down at that school, very excited. Take a look there from Castle Bay Lane, Charter. Yep. You can hear those kids screaming with joy. Everyone was running around on the playground as the snowflakes were falling and sticking, at least for a few minutes before it all melted. But the kids, they were dancing in it, trying to catch every snowflake. Some tried to make some icy snowballs. Teachers say the best part was at this school, let the kids play in the snow and not make them go back inside. Some kids told me they had never seen snow like this before. They always had to go up to Big Bear or the mountains. Parents say it felt like they were living on the East Coast. Pacoima saw snow as well, even with the blue sky still showing. We got videos from Burbank also showing that it snowed earlier today. Now, this comes after a week of rain and rare snow right here in the Southland, falling at these really low elevations, as you mentioned, and in areas that have not seen snow in decades. Take a listen to the excitement from those students and a teacher at Castle Bay.
We totally were caught off guard, but it was a caught off guard like great thing, all right, as opposed to an emergency fire drill or an earthquake. So the kids were out to lunch. They still had about 10 minutes to go, and all of a sudden I heard screaming, which frightened me because I was in my classroom correcting papers, and I run out to the breezeway, and lo and behold, like an Ivory commercial, there were the wisps of snowflakes coming down, and the kids were gleeful.
Yeah, it is cold. It is still windy. We saw hail in Hollywood today. I know it was snowing lightly in Corona. By the way, Miss Dorfman there, who you just heard, said, you know, Porter Ranch is usually known for the heat, for the wind, but this time, this is a memory the kids will cherish forever. Live here in Porter Ranch, Jasmine, KCAL News.
A memory they'll never forget. Jasmine, thank you. Now to some breaking news in Elysian Park, where a massive tree has come down alongside a busy street.
Yeah, Desmond Shaw is live in SoCal with more for us. Desmond.
Amy and Juan, this is right in front of the main entrance to the Barlow Respiratory Hospital here on Stadium Way, 2000 Stadium Way. So you see right by the main entrance here where this huge tree came down and actually clipped the side of the building right here. Fortunately, have not heard any reports of injuries, but I'll widen out and show you just how big this tree is. A lot of workers on this one. Look at the huge roots that got uprooted here with this. Unfortunately, we've been seeing this all over the place, both in the valley and along the LA basin. So here we are in Elysian Park. The only good news, aside from no injuries, looks like Stadium Way remains open as they cut this tree up and get it out of the way. Live in SoCal overhead, I'm Desmond Shaw. Amy and Juan, back to you in the studio.
All right, Desmond, thank you. Now to more breaking news from Malibu, where this rock slide has shut down Malibu Canyon Road. This is south of Piuma Road. The CHP says it's unclear just how long the road will be closed, and drivers are being diverted at this point. And people in our local mountains are stuck because of all that snow.
Yeah, one family even tells us they're running out of food. KCAL News reporter Rena Nakano is live in San Bernardino, where she spoke with them. Rena.
Hey guys, yeah, CHP has been doing escorts up and down this hill. We're at the corner of Highway 18 and 45th right now, but they have since stopped doing those escorts because they say even though conditions right here at the bottom of the hill are good, stuff up there, not so much. We do know that CHP as well as Caltrans, they have been working around the clock, plowing all that snow that's up there, but they are prioritizing the highways and the large roads so that emergency vehicles could get through. They are not, unfortunately, prioritizing those little streets, and many of the people we spoke to, they say that they are staying in an Airbnb with a narrow street and a narrow driveway, and that means they're stuck. That's okay. One family, two locations, both trying to reach one another.
Our 3-day vacation turns into a horrific nightmare.
They just want to go home. They've had enough.
Miriam Magana's family is snowed in at an Airbnb in Crestline. At first, the San Gabriel Valley family enjoyed playing in the snow, but by Saturday, they wanted out.
We're out of everything, and we have 6 kids in the house. I don't know what to do. We need help.
San Bernardino County officials say crews have done more than 100 search and rescue operations in the last few days, are plowing primary roads 24/7 and escorting vital supplies such as food and fuel, but stopped escorting resident vehicles due to severe conditions.
We know that our residents have been shut in some cases for a week. It could go on another 7 to 10 days before we're able to get those roads plowed to those residents.
But Magana says she doesn't have another week. She says she's running out of food and water. Her Airbnb hosts are kicking them out, and she's afraid her children may experience another life or death allergic reaction.
They're allergic to something here, and we've exhausted both of our EpiPens since Saturday, so we've been trying to get out of here.
She tells us she called the county emergency line, CHP and Caltrans, but help hasn't arrived. Their cars are both buried in snow. That's why they enlisted the help of her brother-in-law's with a tractor. But now they're stuck behind the road closure on Highway 18.
We've been up here since 6:30 this morning, but the roads are closed and we can't get up.
Both now in limbo, hoping to reunite soon before the situation gets any worse.
It's just to a point where we don't know. We need the medical attention. We need help. We need help.
And you could really hear that desperation in her voice. And to just give her a little bit more of bad news, we just spoke to the county contractors out here. They say that CHP told them, unfortunately, they will not be doing the escorts for residents up and down this hill as they were supposed to do at 5 o'clock. They say they will let us know if that changes, but for now, 5 o'clock escorts will not be happening. Live out here in San Bernardino, I'm Rena Nakano, KCAL News.
Well, an all-day shutdown of the Grapevine is testing many drivers and truckers' patience. Snow and ice on that stretch of the 5 freeways just too dangerous for travel. Caltrans crews are trying to keep up, and this evening we're hearing that crews are preparing to reopen the 5. The CHP is at the ready to roll drivers out with escorts when they get the all clear. And there are a lot of drivers still impacted by storm problems on the roads and freeways.
Assignment editor Mike Rogers at the desk monitoring the information as it comes into our newsroom. Mike.
Hi, Juan and Amy. Yeah, and that breaking news right now is CHP is in the process of reopening the Grapevine. Caltrans saying they've already opened a couple of spots up in the higher portion of the Grapevine. That low-level closure at KCAL should be opening any moment now. I want to show you some video we just shot moments ago from SoCal. Before this show, you can see that long line of trucks and cars waiting to get up there. They're being held right there at KCAL. But as I talk right now, Caltrans just tweeted saying they have reopened the Grapevine on both sides. I want to come to my traffic maps here so I can show you where this closure has been on all day. You see the 5 there. Parts of the 138 freeway was also closed, which prevented a lot of people from going around. So the only alternative really was through Ventura County. So good news for lots of people that the 5 freeway is going to be open. Now, I want to take you to another really quick piece of breaking news here. We'll show you this video. This happening in Pico Rivera. The National Weather Service says a downburst blew through this area and sent a trampoline into some power lines there. LA County Fire had to respond to help those people. There's also a large tree that's down right there. We've actually got SoCal going to check that out as I speak. So luckily you see an ambulance there. LA County Fire tells me nobody was injured, but they did respond to several calls here related to this microburst and downburst that came through. As we come back out here to the desk, the National Weather Service tells me there's a line of thunderstorms that moved through here, and that's what caused that downburst. But again, no injuries related to that. So we're going to keep everything moving here, and we'll let you know if anything else develops.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. Well, coming up, streets turn to rivers.
Some drivers ignored the warnings while maneuvering through a flooded underpass. How they quickly learned their lesson.
Plus, wine woes, how the storm is wilting away the spirits of winemakers across our state.
More breaking news now. Another tree down, this time in Eagle Rock.
Desmond Shaw live in SoCal with more for us. Desmond, another tree.
Yep, this is at Maywood and Colorado Boulevard in the heart of Eagle Rock. Fortunately, I don't think anybody was out here walking around here. This could have really done some damage to somebody or their vehicle, but no reports of any injuries on this tree down. Just widen out and show you these tree folks, lumberjacks, whatever you want to call them. They are awfully busy today with all of these trees down. Making some pretty good progress, but it looks like a few lanes of westbound Colorado Boulevard will be shut down until they can get all of this cleaned up. Juan and Amy, back to you in the studio.
A lot of firewood there. My God, big tree. Thanks so much, Desmond. All right, the LA Police Union is backing changes that would refocus the types of calls that officers respond to.
That's right. It has submitted a plan that would move nearly 30 specific types of calls to unarmed responders, a plan that is already creating some controversy. KCAL News reporter Jeff Nguyen has all the details.
This whole row right here.
Catherine Harold says there's been an improvement along Rose Avenue in Venice.
Good morning.
This is what it looked like during an encampment cleanup effort late last year.
Looks a lot better now. There was quite a few encampments.
Maintaining the encampment-free streets has been done through a pilot program called Circle, with clinicians instead of LAPD officers. The Los Angeles Police Protective League wants to expand that philosophy to have unarmed responses to nearly 30 emergency calls, such as non-fatal car crashes, calls involving alcohol or drugs when no other crime is in progress, parking violations, or neighbor disputes.
We do not take this proposal lightly, or do we want to diminish importance of some of these calls for service.
Lieutenant Matthew Ensley is a watch commander at LAPD's Pacific Division, who's on loan to the police union. He says when an officer tries to help someone through a psychiatric hold, they have to take that person to get cleared at a hospital.
That can last anywhere in between 2 to 10 hours. Sometimes the person has to stay overnight, which requires the police officers to stay overnight.
The union says that officer's time is better spent handling calls for violent crimes. But retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey is skeptical.
I think this is all window dressing. I think this is Mike Moore, LAPD Chief Mike Moore, trying to appease the mayor because she just gave him a second term.
She says some of the calls the union wants to shift away from officers often end with aggression.
People are going to soon understand that when they do have a problem, all they need to do is say that violence is occurring, and that's going to trigger a police response.
But Catherine Harold believes having an officer with a badge and a gun on some calls can have a chilling effect.
I've been in accidents before, and the police officer walks up to you, and you immediately feel like you're in trouble.
In Venice, Jeff Nguyen, KCAL News.
Right, late this afternoon, we received a statement from the department saying, in part, we welcome the support of the Los Angeles Police Protective League in calling out the importance of establishing an alternative non-law enforcement service response to non-emergency calls.
Well, a local couple is suing a Pasadena fertility clinic after they say the clinic wrongly transferred an embryo with a deadly cancer gene.
Never in a million years did I think this could happen. We chose Dr. Kolb and HRC Fertility specifically because they were supposed to be leaders in IVF and genetic screening for embryos. We're heartbroken about what our beloved son will have to go through because of HRC's misconduct and lies.
Well, Jason Diaz carries the gene for a rare form of stomach cancer. He and his wife, Melissa, say HRC Fertility conducted gene testing to screen for cancer genes. The couple says the clinic mistakenly implanted an embryo with the gene and then tried to cover it up. They say the clinic initially gave them falsified medical records before handing over a copy confirming the error. Their child now has to have his stomach removed. We're waiting for comment from HRC or Huntington Reproductive Center.
All right, take a look at this massive tree that fell overnight in Northridge. Crews spent the day cutting it apart so that the homeowners trapped at the end of a cul-de-sac on McClellan Avenue could get out. One homeowner says the stairs to his front door were damaged by the tree that also took down power lines. A car was seen under all those branches.
Well, the overnight storm caused street flooding all over the Southland. It was especially bad near Lankershim Boulevard and Sherman Way in North Hollywood. Several cars stalled out after going through a flooded underpass. One driver told us the stall out forced him to miss work. Our crew watched as cars continued to drive through the high water despite seeing the stalled cars. The water receded by about 11 this morning. All right, we want to get back to what everyone, of course, is talking about, that surprise snow in the Southland today.
Olga Ospina has more on that and your full next weather forecast. Olga?
Yes, hi, Amy and Juan. We are still looking at a few more showers, but really the snow has been the big story today. Very low elevations and some peaks of sunshine now as we head into the 4 o'clock hour. So things are winding down. They'll continue to wind down, but want to talk about winds because we're talking about those downed trees. And yes, that has been another big part of our storm. If you've gone outside and you've seen all those tree limbs out on the roads, this is why. Look at these really strong gusty winds, double digits out through parts of Ventura County into the San Fernando Valley, even near the coastline. Inland Empire also seeing some double-digit winds, of course, even stronger wind gusts. We have wind advisories still in place throughout the day, even into early Thursday for most of us. And then the high wind warning through tonight, that's going to include places like the Coachella Valley. But we've seen gusts in that 50, 60, even some isolated 70-mile-per-hour gusts. So some dangerous conditions outside. And yes, we've also seen those really cold temperatures. Right now, we're seeing plenty of 50s for most areas. We have low 40s in the Antelope Valley for places like Lancaster, 13-mile-per-hour winds. And it's windy out in Big Bear as well. 18-mile-per-hour west-northwest winds, 18 degrees at the moment. It is cold. Here's a look at that satellite radar. Once again, you can see that rain and, yes, even the snow out through places like the San Gabriel Valley just above Pasadena. So we're we're still continuing to see some low elevation snow. We've seen snow today in Santa Clarita, even out through the Inland Empire, Corona getting some snow as well. And of course, especially through the mountains, those higher elevations, seeing a ton of snow, but most of that a little bit further south into parts of San Diego County. So because of all that snow and those strong gusty winds making for really dangerous driving conditions through those mountain passes, we have a winter storm warning. This still continues through tonight, and even the winter weather advisory that includes the Inland Empire. It's pretty rare that we see it for those areas, but again, we've seen a little bit of snow out through places like Corona. So I'm going to show you the future tracker, show you what we can expect as we head into the next several days. When will this rain and snow be gone? I'll have all that for you in just a few minutes. Back to you guys.
Olga, thank you. Up next here at 4, an out-of-this-world afterlife, how some former U.S. presidents will soon be leaving their mark in outer space.
Plus, a new program is offering people who use wheelchairs with a front row seat to places that used to be out of reach.
We have a lot going on this afternoon. More breaking news here. Some major wind damage in Pico Rivera, where a trampoline has been blown into power lines.
And Desmond Shaw is live overhead at SoCal with more for us. Desmond, this is wild.
Yeah, Amy and Juan, these poor folks on Clarinda Avenue, Pico Rivera, the victims of what's being called a downburst. Really powerful activity here that lifted this trampoline up now into these utility wires. You see here, it looks like it ripped a part of this canopy down and then tipped over this little basketball hoop as well. We had heard that there was a tree down in this area as well. Fortunately, no injuries on this one, but it's just been the theme of the day. All kinds of stuff getting tipped over trees and at first, and now we're talking about trampolines in power lines here in Pico Rivera. Just a totally wild day here in Southern California. Juan and Amy, back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks so much. Well, talk about having an out-of-this-world afterlife. The DNA of 4 former and late presidents will be sent into space. The hair samples, which are believed to be authentic, will be launched into space by Celestic, a space burial company. DNA from George Washington, Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Ronald Reagan will be on the flight. Also on the flight, DNA from Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry. It's unclear when the launch will actually happen.
Enjoying the great outdoors can be a big challenge for people with impaired mobility. Now, a new program in Georgia is changing that. This motorized all-terrain wheelchair is part of a program championed by Amy Copeland. 10 years ago, she got a flesh-eating bacterial infection during a zip-lining accident. Doctors had to amputate both her hands, her right foot, and her entire left leg. Since then, she's created a foundation that's been pushing the state to allow the all-terrain wheelchairs. Double amputee Melanie Dunn is the assistant director for Copeland's foundation.
Just imagine that you can never walk again, and that's what it's like to be in a wheelchair. And the person that is in this chair all of a sudden is just blown away.
The free program is available in nearly a dozen Georgia state parks and wildlife preserves.
Well, Mar Vista man who survived a heart attack thanks to LA firefighters got a chance to say thank you in person today. Hugs all around from Anthony Toronto, who returned to the fire station on Venice Boulevard. The firefighters and paramedics responded late August when he complained of chest pains, and when they got there, they saw him go into cardiac arrest. They performed CPR and shocked his heart twice before they got him to the hospital.
My family and I are extremely thankful and grateful for the work that they do on a daily basis, but especially the work they performed on August 6th, because again, I'm here today as a result of all of them.
Well, the firefighters who helped save Toronto's life all got certificates today for their efforts.
Good job there.
Yeah.
All right, coming up at 4:30, a change of scenery.
Yeah, filming for the film Rust is being relocated when production resumes. What the new location looks like, straight ahead.
This is KCAL News, Los Angeles.
Well, the LAPD has released dash cam and body cam video of a deadly collision involving a stolen vehicle in Pacoima back in January. Officers spotted the car and tried to stop it. That suspect, identified as Oscar De La Cruz, sped away. He went through a red light at the intersection of Woodman Avenue and Lanark Street and then slammed into a 2016 Honda Civic. The driver and passenger in that Civic died. De La Cruz took off on foot. Officers caught him and took him into custody. He faces 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter, 1 count of felony hit and run, and 1 count of fleeing a peace officer's motor vehicle causing death. Now, in the hours following that chase, the LAPD said they had gone into tracking mode and were not actually in pursuit at the time of the crash.
Assignment editor Mike Rogers is at the desk. And Mike, you've been digging deeper into this story. What have you learned after watching that video?
Yeah, Juan and Amy, and I'm going to walk you through some of this video. There's a couple of things that happened here, why LAPD was not immediately behind the vehicle at the time of the crash. I want to show you the video. This first part of the video shows when they're getting off the freeway here. The primary unit's vehicle goes down for some reason or another, and that slows the officers down, and they're not immediately behind the truck. The secondary unit takes over. Now, this is when we're back onto surface streets. They're waiting for a helicopter to get it overhead, and this is when the moment it happens. So from the moment they officially put it into tracking mode, from the moment of the crash was 2.5 seconds. So this was not a situation where they were in any kind of long-term tracking mode. And we had heard from Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, who said the officers were actually so far behind because they were in tracking mode that they didn't actually see the crash. Well, after watching this video, we now know the more likely reason they were that far behind was because the primary officer's vehicle went bad and the secondary officer was trying to catch up to the truck. So the total tracking mode time here, again, 2.5 seconds from the time the watch commander put the pursuit into tracking mode from the time they called out that there was a crash. So not a very long time at all. Now, we'll come back out here to the desk. I'll remind you what tracking mode is for the LAPD. Tracking mode requires officers to be out of the line of sight of the suspect that they're chasing, but remain with their lights and sirens on. So were they far enough back from the suspect vehicle? It's hard to tell if they were actually out of the line of sight. But if they were, it was more than likely because of that primary officer's vehicle that went bad, the secondary officer trying to catch up. Because, as I mentioned, tracking mode in this was 2.5 seconds from the time they ordered it into tracking mode to the time they announced that there was a crash. So not a very long time at all for them to be in tracking mode. This investigation is still ongoing by the LAPD tonight. Amy and Juan.
All right, Mike, thanks so much.
60 years ago, my mom came to the United States on a cargo ship because she couldn't afford a passenger ticket. Recently, she got a call from the President of the United States telling her that her daughter was going to be nominated to be U.S. Labor Secretary.
Well, a standing ovation this morning when President Biden announced the nomination of Julie Su to be the next Labor Secretary. Sue got her start here in L.A. working for the Asian Pacific American Legal Center. She was the lead attorney in the El Monte Thai garment slavery case. She headed the state's division of labor standards enforcement under Governor Jerry Brown and then served as secretary of the California Labor and Workforce Development Agency under Governor Newsom. Sue has been the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Labor since 2021. At her nomination ceremony, she shared how a union job gave her parents a path to the middle class. She also spoke about using her voice to help others succeed in their workplaces.
When the president talks about those who've been forgotten or invisible, I know what he means because I have spent my career fighting for them to be seen. So to all workers who are toiling in the shadows, to workers who are organizing for power and respect in the workplace, know that we see you, we stand with you, and we will fight for you.
Now, if confirmed by the Senate, she will be the first Asian American to serve in a secretary-level role in Mr. Biden's cabinet.
More than a year and a half after the on-set shooting that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins, production for Rust will restart in the spring, but the film crew won't be returning to the same set. The film, starring Alec Baldwin, has moved production from its original location in New Mexico to Yellowstone Film Ranch in Montana. Here's a look at the set. This change comes as there's still a lot of tension around what happened. Earlier this week, 3 crew members sued Alec Baldwin and the film's producers, saying they have suffered anxiety and symptoms of PTSD after the deadly incident. Baldwin is facing involuntary manslaughter charges tied to the shooting and has already pleaded not guilty.
Well, starting today, millions of Americans will lose extra emergency food relief. The pandemic-era Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP, is being slashed. For the last 3 years, people who got SNAP benefits received extra funds for food as part of a pandemic hunger relief program. Now, many households face reductions of $250 or more each month. All right, still ahead, a screen time cap.
How TikTok is stepping in to prevent teens from scrolling endlessly on its platform.
And it turns out even the tooth fairy isn't immune to inflation. What kids expect under their mellow ballad days. We're following more breaking news. A freeway shooting under investigation in Carson.
A lot going on today. Desmond Shaw live in SoCal with more. Des?
Juan and Amy, we understand that someone was shot here on the freeway. We're looking at the connector from the southbound 110 to the southbound 405. The driver of this vehicle, as I double in, you can see the bullet you see through the front windshield there where that bullet went through. Amazingly, only minor injuries to that person. Now, CHP would not confirm to us if this was a car-to-car shooting or if this was someone standing on the roadway or on an overpass or something like that. But we do know that whoever shot at this vehicle is still out there, is still outstanding. No suspect description. One person, minor injuries here, and a big investigation in Carson, southbound 110 to the southbound 405. Amy and Juan, back to you in the studio.
So lucky they'll be okay. Desmond, thank you. Fire tears through a two-story house in Long Beach. Several people are hurt there. Firefighters quickly snuffed out the flames. But the damage had already been done. The fire left 4 people badly hurt, including a child.
Yeah, KCAL News reporter Michelle Geely has a closer look at what happened.
Video shows one of the victims burned in a Long Beach house fire getting into an ambulance. A witness says his friend tried to put out the flames that poured out of an upstairs window of the old house on Atlantic Avenue Wednesday morning.
He said it was an awful scene. He described my friend as his skin just burning off of him. And he tried to tell him, or he told him, don't go back in there. He says, my nephew's, and he had a water hose or something. And he went and grabbed him because he was about to jump back in there.
As the house burned, firefighters were told that 2 people may be trapped upstairs. A 3-year-old was found in cardiac arrest, according to firefighters, and another unconscious young man was brought down from a 2nd-story loft. Their conditions are extremely critical.
The first floor had already been searched, and they were making their way up to the 2nd floor when that report came in. Immediately thereafter, they encountered those 2 individuals. Those individuals, like I said, resuscitative measures were initiated immediately.
Neighbors say several generations of the same family call this home. A total of 3 adults suffered burn injuries, all of them males between the ages of 18 and 20. According to authorities, one of the men and the toddler were given advanced life-saving measures by paramedics as they rushed them to the hospital. Investigators are looking into what started this fire and whether there are any working smoke detectors inside of the house. With the cold weather, no doubt they'll also be looking at the house's heating system and whether it may have played a part in this family tragedy. In Long Beach, Michelle Geely, KCAL News.
Up next here at 4, Foo Fighters frontman Dave Grohl swaps out a microphone for an apron, how he's a hero on and off the stage. Next. A historic chair in Britain is getting a touch-up before King Charles' upcoming coronation. The 700-year-old chair has been used in the coronation of many monarchs, including Henry VIII, Queen Victoria, and Queen Elizabeth II.
Wow, the coronation of the king and the queen consort will take place at Westminster Abbey Saturday, May 6th. That chair will be ready.
It sure will be. And thank you for watching KCAL News at 4. Our next newscast just moments away on KCAL News at 5 on CBS.
And we are always on KCALnews.com and streaming on CBS Los Angeles. We'll see you again tonight on KCAL News at 8, 9, and 10.
Juan Fernandez, weeknights, KCAL News.